Baby, I know we've heard a bunch of stuff about how Diddy's mom, Janice, may have been the mastermind behind all those freak-off parties her son was hosting. But you want to tell me that there could be a tape out there that has both Janice and Diddy? Like, for real, for real? Well, Jaguar Wright has been out here making wild allegations about Diddy and his mom, and word on the street is that this time, Janice is gonna retaliate, and not with her normal statements defending Diddy. Allegedly, she plans on going hard on Jaguar. Can I just start by saying that the things Jag has been saying about Janice and Diddy are not things that haven't been speculated before. I mean, we know that Diddy grew up in what I like to describe as a world defined by a sharp contrast between suburban stability and the lingering shadows of the criminal underworld. Following the death of his father, Melvin, a known associate of Frank Lucas who was unalived in his car at just 33 years old, his mother moved the family from the streets of Harlem to Mount Vernon. However, while Diddy attended the disciplined environment of Mount St. Michael Academy, a Catholic all-boys school, his home life remained deeply connected to his Harlem roots. Why? Well, because his mother apparently struggled to leave the street life behind, and she frequently invited her old friends and hustlers from Harlem to their new home. In fact, according to accounts from childhood friends, this created an environment where the lines between his innocence and adulthood were dangerously blurred. I'm talking about Janice hosting wild after-hours parties where Diddy and others his age at the time were reportedly exposed to all sorts of things in a setting some now claim served as the original blueprint for Diddy's later freak-offs. And guess what? Now, allegedly, there were also rumors that Diddy's mom was also spotted in some of the tapes that were recovered when the feds raided Diddy's home. And based on what I've heard, Jaguar Wright has allegedly been saying there's a very high possibility that there's a freak-off tape of Diddy's mom, Janice. Basically, Jaguar said that the freak-off culture associated with Diddy did not originate with his fame, but was a lifestyle he inherited directly from his mother. She claimed that Janice ran what she described as a house of professional freak-offs, or a high-end speakeasy environment in their Mount Vernon home. According to Jaguar, while Janice publicly maintained the image of a hardworking single mother and school bus driver, she was simultaneously entertaining a rotation of hustlers, pimps, and basketball players late into the night. Jaguar argues that a young Diddy was essentially a silent witness to these adult activities, which desensitized him to intimacy excess and blurred the boundaries between parental and peer relationships. Based on what Jag said, by feeding Diddy a diet of blaxploitation films and stories of street dominance, Janice intentionally shaped Diddy into a monster designed to conquer the industry by any means necessary. In fact, in Jaguar's view, Janice is the architect of Diddy's reputation, having allegedly used the pharmaceutical and social secrets she gathered in her Mount Vernon home to help Diddy build his empire and protect it through blackmail and intimidation. Now, as for Diddy's father, Jaguar commented on his legacy and how Janice managed that narrative. She claimed that Janice glorified the gangster to her son, shielding him from the reality that Melvin was allegedly a snitch who met a terrible end, and Diddy only found out after doing his own research. In addition, Jag also noted how Janice was a hardcore woman who taught Diddy that winning was the only acceptable outcome, even if it required manipulation. Then she highlighted the weird and boundaryless relationship between the two, like the public displays of affection, such as kissing his mother on the mouth or bragging about her physical flexibility. According to Jaguar, these were symptomatic of a dynamic where Janice was more of a partner in crime or a social peer than a protective maternal figure. Let's just say that other than Jaguar, people have been noting how men who actively engage in unhealthy relationship dynamics with their mother will rarely have healthy romantic relationships with women. I mean, when he was arrested, the list of indictments included the freak-off parties, which were descriptively described as elaborate and produced performances that Combs arranged, directed, masturbated during, and often electronically recorded. Diddy was essentially luring women in by promising them true romantic connections. Then, after gaining their trust, he allegedly used force, threatened them with force or coercion to have them engage in lengthy intercourse with male workers. Afterwards, the women would allegedly receive IV fluids to help them physically recover from them, just like we saw it happen with Diddy and his mom. Honestly speaking, if Diddy's mom was getting all these IV fluids that were being used after freak-offs, would you blame anyone for assuming that she also participated in the freak-offs? Well, if word on the street is anything to go by, there could actually be an FO tape out there of Diddy with his mom. Anywho, Jaguar also critiqued Janice's public defenses of her son, labeling her an unreliable narrator who is protecting her own financial interests and legacy. She pointed out that Janice is a significant owner of Bad Boy Records assets and suggests that her loyalty is tied to the liquid DNA and secrets they both share. Jaguar even went as far as to suggest that Janice's involvement in the industry's underworld was so deep that she should be viewed as a co-conspirator rather than a bystander. And yes, Janice has in fact defended Diddy a bunch of times. Y'all remember when things started getting hotter? Janice was rushed to the hospital after she complained about discomfort in her chest. Diddy was still in Miami at the time, and at his mom's request, he went to the hospital to be by her side. Apparently, Janice believed the pain was related to stress over her son's legal woes, including the federal investigation and multiple civil lawsuits. So, the doctors were keeping her hospitalized for further testing and observation, and sources said that Diddy was there with her because he's her comfort. At the time, there were also reports that she was also saying her son is not who people think he is. Later on, she also released that statement through her attorney, where she said her son is not a monster. She said she was profoundly saddened by the allegations her son faces and asserted that he deserves a chance to prove his innocence in court. She also said in the statement that it is heartbreaking to see her son judged not for the truth, but for a narrative created out of lies. Janice also referenced that hotel video of Diddy and Cassie, adding, "I am not here to portray my son as perfect because he is not. He has made mistakes in his past, as we all have. My son may not have been entirely truthful about certain things, such as denying he has ever gotten rough with an ex-girlfriend when the hotel's surveillance showed otherwise." The statement then continued and said, "Sometimes the truth and a lie become so closely intertwined that it becomes terrifying to admit one part of the story, especially when that truth is outside the norm or is too complicated to be believed. This is why I believe my son's civil legal team opted to settle the ex-girlfriend's lawsuit instead of contesting it until the end, resulting in a ricochet effect as the federal government used this decision against my son by interpreting it as an admission of guilt. Watching the world make jokes and laugh at my son's life crumbling before our eyes is something I can never forget. It is truly agonizing to watch the world turn against my son so quickly and easily over lies and misconceptions without ever hearing his side or affording him the opportunity to present his side." In the statement, Janice also suggested that people were making false allegations in order to secure a quick payday after seeing how her son settled the first lawsuit. What Diddy's mom was saying was that the federal government was using these lies to prosecute her son, adding that the injustice had been unbearable for their family. She also said that the worst part of this ordeal was watching her beloved son be stripped of his dignity, not for what he did, but for what people choose to believe about him. Then, she further called upon the public, as well as her son's fans and supporters, not to rush to judgment, saying, "My son is not the monster they have painted him to be, and he deserves the chance to tell his side. I can only pray that I am alive to see him speak his truth and be vindicated." Once again, after the Netflix documentary, Janice issued a statement to correct what she called some of the lies that were presented in the Netflix documentary, claiming that the inaccuracies about Diddy's upbringing were intentionally misleading. First of all, she said that she raised Diddy with love and hard work, often working 3 to 4 jobs to provide for him. Then, she called the allegations from Kirk Burroughs, who claimed Diddy once slapped her during a conversation, inaccurate and patently false. I mean, I know it's her son, and Janice probably feels like, as the mom, she deserves to protect her son, but it's all these statements that are making people dig deeper into her past as well. Well, allegedly, she plans on legally taking it up with people who have been spreading narratives about her, including Jaguar Wright. Now, whether or not an FO tape of Janice and Diddy exists, I don't know for certain, but you let me know whether you think it's wild to assume there's one in the comments section below.